it's the age of sail. Boundaries of the era are relative, blurred and worn out. However, one thing is certain, this is the time of great geographical discoveries. It is a discovery of new lands and sea routes to Africa, America, Asia and Oceania. In the game Endeavour Age of Sail, you will begin your journey in the European possessions and gradually build up your military power, uniting remote regions under your rule. Your goal is to bring your empire to greatness. In order to do this, you will open various regions, will take control of cities, fleets and even entire routes, will build buildings and make deals. Hello, my name is Elena and this is Crowd Games. Today we will tell you how to win fame and become a real maker of history. Double-sided game board is designed for a different number of players and divided into 7 areas. One of them, Europe, will be available to you from the very beginning of the game. You will explore other regions throughout the game. Players start the game with a personal player mat, components of their color, as well as one start building tile. One of the participants becomes the first player, receives the crown and begins the game. The game consists only of 7 rounds, which pass very quickly. Each of them consists of 5 phases. The first one is the construction phase. Each player takes one building and places it on the leftmost available space of his or her seaside. Buildings differ one from another in a build level, and players can only build those which are equal to or lower than their current build level. Each building gives you certain bonuses and, most importantly, allows you to perform various actions in the same phase. Next comes the growth phase. You get population discs from the supply depending on your growth level and place them in your harbor. These discs symbolize workers who can, for example, work on buildings, discover distant lands, or attack opponents. During the salary phase, you move discs from buildings to your harbor, depending on your salary level. When you free up buildings, you immediately get the opportunity to perform desired action in the next phase. We will talk about the action phase a bit later. Each round ends with the discard phase. You look at your influence score and determine your card limit, then discard excess ones. Nevertheless, a reasonable question appears. What are these levels of construction, growth, salary and influence? Moreover, how to increase them? You have 4 tracks on your player mat: industry, culture, wealth and influence. By moving the marker to the right, you increase the corresponding level of construction, growth, salary and increase your card limit. Markers can be moved during construction of buildings, receiving trade tokens, making deals and receiving governor cards. To perform an action, you either activate a building or spend an action token. There are several types of action. Therefore, the most logical thing would be to start with a ship, if we are talking about the Age of Sail. During the ship, you can visit a shipping track, occupy a fleet space, or go to an open sea zone. One of the main goals is the discovery of new territories. The game has 6 closed regions: the Far East, India, North America, the Caribbean, South America, and Africa. To open a region, players put their discs to the shipping track of that region. As soon as the disc of one of the players occupies the last space, the region is considered to be explored. Players can occupy fleet spaces, open sea zones, perform attack, and occupy actions. The one who has more discs on the shipping track receives a governor card and puts it to the appropriate space on the player mat, or next to it if there is already another governor card. In order to occupy a fleet space, you simply transfer the disc from your harbor to the space and pick up a trade token. You can go to an open sea zone if all the shipping spaces are occupied already and you need to be present in this region. Why do you need to be present in a region? For example, to perform an occupy action. You send your disc from the harbor to an occupied city of an open region and pick up a trade token. On the other hand, to perform an attack action. To do this, you discard a disc from your harbor as a casualty and then replace the opponent's disc with your disc in a fleet space or a city. In addition, you can perform the payment action. Remove a disc from a building and free it up. Or perform a draw action. Take the top asset card from the card stack and place it on your player mat. Each region has its own deck. In Europe, there are 2 of them. Each card has its draw value. You can take only those cards which value is equal to or lower than presence in this region. The second deck in Europe is the slavery deck. At a certain point of the game, slavery may be abolished. Then you have to set aside all your slavery cards, worsening your attributes, and get penalty points for them at the end of the game. As soon as the 7th round ends, players begin the final glory score. You get victory points for the achieved levels on attribute tracks, for occupied cities and links, for constructed buildings and cards, for the governor space if it's empty, and for the discs remaining in the harbor. The player who has received the most glory is declared the ruler of the greatest power. Of course, that isn't all, since the box also contains an interesting expansion with the events of the Age of Sail. The exploits describe the real events which took place in that era. These are the struggle for saltpeter and the flight of slaves to the northern states and the astronomical research. There are 15 event exploits in the game. In each game you can use 3 of them. They are activated when the regions indicated on the exploit become opened. Then the present players can use new components and apply new effects indicated on the exploit. For example, the event Spanish Main will allow you to strengthen occupied cities. Nevertheless, we don't recommend starting the first game immediately with this expansion. It's better to get used to the game a bit and then add new features. The game is as big as the Age of Sails itself. At a minimum, such huge player board is not often found in games. At the same time, it's very easy to learn, fast, reckless, varied, moderately conflicting, and designed so beautifully, so be sure to try it. And we will continue to furrow the seas. Stay with us! Read more about our projects on www.crowdgames.ru in the projects section.